Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
From makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia, this is the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am your host, Joey Harris. Follow the show on Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. Folks, hope you're doing well. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, that you're having a wonderful week. Maybe you got some time off. Hope you got at least a little time off away from your work. Crazy thing happened to me in that I work in college housing, as I've said before, and in one of the buildings that I manage, they had the sprinkler system. We had this brace of cold weather. The sprinkler system, the water froze in one of them and burst out in one of the buildings. And so I get a text from my boss about it on Christmas Eve. No need for you to take any action. Just wanted to give you a heads up that this was happening. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, thanks for letting me know. The next day, Christmas Day, wake up. Our friend Michelle is here visiting my wife and I. We get up. We have our little Christmas celebration here. We go to my parents. My parents live an hour and a half away. And so we're at my parents. We've been there an hour and a half. And I get a call from the maintenance supervisor that the same thing that happened in the other building happened in the building that I lived in. Not in my apartment, but because it was near my apartment, some water had come into our apartment. And so, oh my goodness. So, and they couldn't get in, so they had to go through a window to get in my apartment. So we don't know what we're coming into. So get back in the truck, drive an hour and a half, and turns out it wasn't as bad as we thought. We did have some minor water damage, more inconvenience than anything else. So it was about 4 hours one day cleaning up everything when we got back. And then doing a lot of laundry because, get towels to clean up the water, move things out of the way. Some clothing got wet from my wife's business that she runs. So doing all of that, and it was more of an inconvenience for us. So it could have been worse, but what a way to spend your Christmas, huh? Today, Project 45 lands in the year 1988 as we look at the final days of World Class Championship Wrestling as they are transitioning to something else with the WCCW show from December the 17th, 1988. As we open the video, Kevin Von Erich is trying to make it to the ring, but is getting mobbed by fans. He is still popular here in 1988. Mark Lawrence and Frank Dusek are your announcers for the event. Kevin Von Erich versus the Super Black Ninja. Ninja attacks Kevin before the bell. Kevin throws Ninja to the outside. He goes out after Ninja and gets attacked with a chair from Ninja. Ninja then throws Kevin into a ringside table, but Kevin blocks it and runs Ninja into the table instead. Kevin then hits Ninja with a chair. The match hasn't even officially started yet, I don't think, and Kevin still has his ring jacket on. Back in the ring, and Kevin with some right hands to Ninja in the corner. He then throws Ninja out again and goes back out after him. He scoop slams Ninja on the floor, and they battle through the crowd and out to the parking lot door emergency exit. Ninja is halfway out the door when Kevin puts the claw on him. He then kicks Ninja through the door and heads back towards the ring. Referee Bronco Lubitsch had already counted both men out. I don't know when this was taped, but Kevin says, "Remember Pearl Harbor Day. I just took care of him for you." We have reached the insensitive portion of our program so early. Lawrence and Dusek talk about the injuries that Eric Embry has sustained. They then cut to Mark Lawrence interviewing Buddy Roberts, who is with the SST. Roberts says, "We are going to see who is the toughest team in the sport." He says blood does not stop his men and that Skandor Akbar is broken down. He said Akbar better get on his camel named Clyde because his SST are nothing to laugh about. He feels safe around his boys, and he has a good reason. He then calls out Michael Hayes and says that Hayes has a match with Roberts the next night, and Roberts is going to show everybody who invented the Bad Street match. It wasn't Michael Hayes or Terry Gordy. It was Roberts, and he is going to show all of the people right there in Dallas who is the king of Bad Street and who is the king of the managers and who is the greatest tag team in the world today. WCCW had been having an agreement with the CWA that would lead to Jerry Jarrett buying into the promotion, so they show a match from the WMC studios of the stud stable Robert Fuller and Jimmy Golden with Sylvia and Downtown Bruno versus Tommy King and Alan Reynolds. Dave Brown and Lance Russell on the call. Fuller and Reynolds start. All Fuller to start, but Reynolds comes back with a double shot to the midsection out of the corner. Golden tagged in and he starts to beg off. Reynolds with a side headlock and King tagged in. Golden takes him down with a handful of hair. Golden then kicks King. Golden with an Irish whip and a backdrop. Golden with a scoop slam and a neck breaker to King. King trying to come back, so Golden gets him in the corner and slaps him. He then hip tosses King out of the corner. He kicks King out of the ring where Sylvia attacks him with the kendo stick. Fuller goes out and throws King back in the ring. While this has been going on, Bruno has been going on non-stop on the mic until Lance Russell finally cuts him off. Golden with a double underhook suplex. He then runs King headfirst into the corner several times. The referee admonishing Golden, allowing Fuller to attack King in the corner. Golden then with an Irish whip and a drop kick to King. Fuller tagged in, and while Golden was distracting the referee and Reynolds, Fuller kicks King in the head with his loaded boot. Fuller then pins King. The stud stable then attack Reynolds. We then get a video on Sid Vicious. Cactus Jack Manson and Gary Young versus Chris Adams and Jeff Jarrett. Young brags about the attack he and Skandor Akbar's crew did on Eric Embry. Adams and Jarrett cheered when they come to the ring. Young and Jarrett start. Young screaming at Adams on the apron, and Adams tells Young to take a shot at him. Akbar crowing in the corner about all that he has done. Young and Jarrett lock up. Young hip locks Jarrett to the mat. He then struts around. They circle each other again, and Jarrett diving for Young's legs. They lock up, and Jarrett with a side headlock. Young pushes off. Jarrett comes back with a shoulder block. Jarrett runs the ropes and then both block hip lock attempts. Young rushes Jarrett, who hits Young with a scoop slam. Jarrett then hits Young with a flying head scissors, then another one, and then a drop kick by Jarrett to Young. Cactus Jack comes in and Jarrett drop kicks him to the outside. Young gets back in the ring. They lock up. Jarrett with a wrist lock, tags Adams in, and holds the wrist lock for Adams to come off the top rope with a double axe handle to Young. Adams with an armbar to Young, into a wrist lock. Adams really working on Young and gets him down to the mat with a hammer lock. Young makes it back to his feet. Adams still working on the arm. Young pushes off. Adams comes back with a pair of shoulder blocks. Adams then leapfrogs Young and gets an arm drag. He goes back to the armbar and Jarrett tagged back in. A double Irish whip and a back elbow to Young. Jarrett gets a 1 count. Jarrett with an arm drag and goes back to the armbar. Young gets back to his feet and hits a forearm to Jarrett to break the hold. Young with a scoop slam and Cactus Jack tagged in. Jarrett arm drags him and gets an armbar on. He brings Cactus Jack over to the corner and Adams tagged in. He kicks Cactus Jack's arm. Adams working on the arm of Cactus Jack, twisting it and yanking down on it. He hits a modified snapmare to Cactus Jack and drops a knee on Cactus Jack. Adams gets the armbar, but Cactus Jack makes it back to his feet and then forces Adams into the corner. Cactus Jack with some right hands to Adams in the corner. Back and forth in the corner. Adams reverses Cactus Jack into the corner and hits him with some right hands. Cactus Jack reverses a corner whip and nails Adams with a knee to the stomach. Cactus Jack then runs Adams into Young's boot and Young tagged in. Double Irish whip and clothesline to Adams. Young drops a fist on Adams. Adams trying to get up and Young hits him with a right hand. He then tags Cactus Jack back in and Cactus Jack with a full Nelson-like move, but Cactus Jack's hands are on Adams' face. He then clotheslines Adams to the mat. Cactus Jack with a corner whip, but Adams moves on the charge and Cactus Jack spills out to the floor. Young in and stomping and hitting Adams as Akbar complains to the announcers that Cactus Jack went over the top rope and Adams should be disqualified. They say his own momentum took him over. Young grabs Adams' leg and Adams hits an enziguri to get out of the move. Jarrett tagged in and he comes in and cleans house. All four in the ring going at it. The heels are Irish whipped into each other. Akbar gets up on the apron and gets nailed by the faces and goes to the floor to the delight of the crowd. Iceman King Parsons comes in and attacks the faces for disqualification. Brickhouse Brown comes in and attacks Parsons. The heels bail out to the floor. Mark Lawrence interviews the faces. Jeff Jarrett says the action is nonstop and he is proud to be a part of it. Adam says, look at this crowd. And suddenly, Parsons and Brown start going at it in the ring again. Brown gets the advantage and Parsons bails out to the floor. Adamson talks about becoming a promoter as he had started promoting spot shows around this time and was pretty successful at it. Iceman King Parsons with Skandor Akbar versus Brickhouse Brown. The bell rings and Parsons doesn't want to get in the ring. Brown is in the ring and ready for Parsons. He taunts Parsons, who finally gets in the ring, and when he does, Brown rushes him and hits some big right hands to Parsons in the corner. Brown pulls Parsons out to the center of the ring and hits him with some more right hands to knock him down. Parsons begging off, but Brown gets him up and hits him with the double throat thrust. Parsons falls back to the corner, and Brown comes in with knees to Parsons to knock him to the ground. Brown with some right hands to Parsons, who hits Brown with a low blow to knock him to the ground. Parsons runs Brown into the mat, head first several times, and then gouging Brown in the face. Parsons then hits a suplex on Brown. He then kicks Brown in the midsection as Brown tries to get up. Parsons then choking Brown on the top rope for a 4 count. He then jerks Brown with the top rope to drive him back first into the mat. Parsons with the clothesline as the fans cheer, "Go Brick, go." Brown back up and swinging wildly. Parsons with a kick to knock Brown back down. Parsons goes for a pile driver, but Brown reverses it into a backdrop. Brown coming back with rights and lefts to Parsons. Brown then drives Parsons into the corner turnbuckle head first. Brown with some chops to Parsons in the corner. He then chokes Parsons on the top rope to get a little payback. Brown with an Irish whip and a sleeper to Parsons. Parsons goes to his knees. Akbar gets up on the apron to distract the referee, who makes Akbar get down. Parsons starting to fade. Parsons reaching up to try to gouge Brown's face. He gouges the eyes to get out of the sleeper. Parsons with the right hand to knock Brown to the mat. Brown reverses an Irish whip and gets an abdominal stretch on Parsons. Parsons flips Brown over to get out of the hold. Brown back up and gets the sleeper on, and Gary Young and Cactus Jack get into the ring and attack Brown and bring about a DQ for Parsons. They hold Brown for Parsons to attack. Akbar throws the referee out of the ring. Jeff Jarrett and Chris Adams hit the ring to help Brown. All 6 going at it in the ring. Eric Embry comes out to a big ovation, and he attacks Akbar, and the heels all bail out to the floor. The faces come out after them, and everyone is fighting on the floor now. They show earlier in the evening Eric Embry about to take on Akbar in a match, and a woman comes up to ringside to ask Embry for an autograph, and then nails Embry with a brick. Cactus Jack comes in and also attacks Embry, and the woman is revealed to be Gary Young. Back to live action, and Mark Lawrence interviews Embry, whose hair is stained with blood and he is holding his left arm with his right hand. The video is very muddy, so you can't really make out clearly what he is saying, but he is vowing revenge on Gary Young and the rest of Akbar's men. Ad for the pre-Christmas Star Wars bash happening the next night. Jerry Lawler comes to the ring. He has both the AWA and the WCWA belts as a result of winning the match with Kerry Von Erich at Superclash 3, which you can listen to in the archives. Lawler not very popular with the crowd. The audio is still terrible. Kerry Von Erich comes to the ring and he is very popular with the crowd. Undisputed World Heavyweight Championship match. Jerry Lawler versus Kerry Von Erich. Kerry gets on the mic and says he has defeated Lawler 3 times and everybody knows what happened in Chicago. Lawler gets on the mic and says Kerry has talked enough, and when Lawler comes down the aisle, everyone should stand up for the king. Lawler knows how to play the heel. Kerry gets back on the mic and says that these people are not stupid like the people in Tennessee. These people saw you down and in the Iron Claw in Chicago. The audio isn't getting any better, so I wish they would just start the match. Lawler goes out to the apron while Kerry takes his robe off and referee Bronco Lubitsch trying to get Lawler back into the ring. Kerry rushes Lawler on the apron, so Lawler drops down to the floor. Lubitsch gets Kerry back, so he starts strutting around the ring. Lawler is still on the floor. Lawler yelling and pointing at people in the crowd. Lawler gets up on the apron and tells Lubitsch to keep Kerry away from him so Lawler can get in the ring. Lawler comes through the ropes, and as he does, he bumps his head on the top rope, so he bails out to the floor again, and somewhere Larry Zbyszko is worried about gimmick infringement. Lubitsch counting Lawler out. Kerry says, "Come on, coward, step in the ring." Lawler finally gets into the ring. Lawler tells the crowd to be quiet and tells Lubitsch to make them shut up, which of course causes them to be louder. Lawler is playing the crowd like a fiddle. Kerry urging the crowd on, and Lawler says he can't hear to wrestle. Kerry dives for Lawler's legs, and Lawler barely gets away in time. Kerry rushes Lawler again, and Lawler barely makes it to the ropes. They finally lock up and drive to a corner. They break, and Lawler goes to hit Kerry with the right hand, and Kerry ducks. Lawler then covers up and tells Lubitsch to get Kerry away. They circle each other, and Lawler tells the crowd again to be quiet. They lock up and drive to a corner. They break clean. Lawler then goes for a shot that Kerry blocks, and then he knocks Lawler down with the right hand. Lawler stumbles to the apron. Another lock up and drive back to the corner, and I have seen this before. Another clean break, and Lawler again tries to punch Kerry, who blocks it and punches Lawler. A series of punches knocks Lawler to the top rope in the corner, and Kerry applies the claw. Lubitsch trying to get Kerry away, but Kerry then applies the claw to the stomach of Lawler. Lubitsch finally gets Kerry away, and Lawler falls out to the floor. Lawler hesitates, but finally gets back in. They lock up and immediately go back to the corner. If you've been taking a shot every time they do this, enjoy your buzz. Out of the corner, and Lawler kicks Kerry a couple of times in the stomach. Lawler then hits Kerry with a pile driver, since it is legal in WCCW. Kerry no-sells it and gets up and clotheslines Lawler. Kerry punching Lawler in the face, and then picks him up and throws him to the outside. Kerry goes out after Lawler and goes to run Lawler into the corner post, but Lawler blocks it and runs Kerry in instead. Lawler gets back in the ring as the video ends abruptly, but the results say it was a TV time limit draw. Final thoughts. This was typical of WCCW at the time. Not setting the world on fire, but there are worse ways to spend an hour. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at @TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. You can support the show at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.